Okay, I got to go back to the website where we were. We were talking about facts. There is a 40-year high in volunteers, over 8,600 Americans in 77 different countries, and Peace Corps has been in 139 countries. Wow.
Yeah, 139, and that's amazing. It just released today that this is, you know, the highest point of Peace Corps volunteers being overseas, Americans serving overseas since 1970. And so just, again, a real testament to the service-minded Americans that are coming to our doors and wanting to join the Peace Corps and represent their country overseas.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's just talk about that, about where we're going to go. I went onto the peacecorps.gov map, and I saw that there were some cool places basically all over the world that you can go to. And again, we're going to get to some of the B-roll there, and actually up on the screen is just some different places that you can go to. You went somewhere too.
I did.
Where did you get to go?
I went to Mali in West Africa, and had never been out of the country when I set off to be a Peace Corps volunteer in Mali. I was invited to do health education. So,
is that your training?
Well, interesting question. I was a journalism major, but I had joined VISTA, Volunteers in Service to America, and done some health work.
Are you in this picture?
I am, actually.
Which one are you?
Let's see, which
you're the one in blue, is that right?
Not to be mistaken, yes, I'm here in the middle. This is a trip up to Timbuktu, and I have to admit, some ignorance, I never realized that Timbuktu is anything other than a fabled place. And so as a Peace Corps volunteer, with those 48 days of vacation that I mentioned, headed up to Timbuktu.
Did you ride those camels?
I did not, actually.
How come?
I pet them.
You pet them?
I was fine at the ground level.
Did they spit at you?
No, no. I can't say that they did. We got along just fine.
So is this what a lot of Peace Corps volunteers get to do? They get to pet camels?
That's in all of our recruitment materials. Yes, yes. You too can pet the camels. You know, this was really just an amazing experience because being able to go over to Mali and work on malnutrition projects and child survival projects and have such a meaningful job, that is something that you asked if that was my training or if that was my background. I had some volunteer experience in that area, and I had a bachelor's degree. And that's still to this day something that most of our programs are looking for a college degree. We have some that aren't, which will take 3 to 5 years work experience in lieu of the college degree. But really, if you have a college degree in any discipline and you have at least several months of volunteer experience in a given area, we can train you up. And so that's what happened to me. I learned all about malnutrition and disease prevention in sub-Saharan Africa, and then was placed in a 200-person village and had that mud hut and just changed my life.
You know, it's interesting for you to say that because of the work that I do. I have met a lot of people who at one point in time in their lives were in the Peace Corps. And to a person, they are incredibly competent people. What is it about the experience that changes your life?
You know, I think it really gives us, well, I should say, speaking for myself, it opened my mind. It made me see the haves and have-nots in a totally different way. It changed my perspective. I mean, I became just an eternally grateful person. And I think that that's something that, not necessarily a competence piece, but certainly, you know, an attitude. It's an attitudinal piece that I see in a lot of Peace Corps volunteers. That
So you were grateful for being born and growing up in the United States in a country of abundance?
Sure, and grateful to have certainly had the chance to make friends with people on the other side of the world that had so many similarities, you know, amidst the differences. But when you come back, and this isn't just for people that were in places without those creature comforts, but, you know, to be able to turn on the faucet or to be able to, you know, see the healthy babies or, you know, there were so many things I was grateful for, but really just grateful for that experience to have made those friendships.
Well, okay, so for anybody who's interested in the Peace Corps, let's get personal.
Sure.
Let's talk about what are the benefits of being in the Peace Corps that are actually specific and like dollars and cents. You get paid a lot, right?
Lots of money involved. Actually, so the volunteers are given a living stipend, and that's gauged according to the country that you would be living in. And so certainly no one's getting rich, but no one needs any of their own money, so everything is covered.
So if I was going to Kenya, for example?
Yeah, so you would be set up in a town or a village or even a city, and your living stipend each month would be adjusted so that you would make sure you have everything covered, but you'd be living at the level of the community, and that's the whole idea behind it. It's not an expatriate setup. You're living, you know, everybody else is in a hut, you're in a hut. Everybody else is in, you know, the town, campo, whatever this situation is. And so Peace Corps covers all of your expenses, medical, dental, flies you over to the country where you'd be living and working. You get the vacation days paid for, as I mentioned.
Do they fly you back?
If you behave properly, they will. They'll put you back on the plane.
If you behave, you can come back.
Yeah,
Okay, that's a good deal.
It's a great system. So the so transportation to and from, room and board, medical, et cetera. So everything is paid for. And again, I think that's a real distinction in this day and age where there are a lot of great programs out there, but a lot of them you're paying fees to participate or you're paying to volunteer, and that is certainly not the case with the Peace Corps. Student loans can be forgiven. Some they can be deferred. Some of them can be forgiven.
So there are educational benefits as well. We've got that. So
yeah.
In addition, there might be some educational benefits that you would get on top of everything else that you get.
That is correct, and that's something I think that is one of Peace Corps' best kept secrets. And I was just at the Idealist Grad School Fair last night, swamped with people who had never heard that you could actually earn your master's degree while you're in Peace Corps. And that's something that is, it's our Master's International program. University of Washington has wonderful Master's International offerings, as do more than 60 universities in the country. But that's a way that you can really marry that practical experience of the Peace Corps with your academic career, if you will, if you already know what you want to study and you know you want that 2 years of international experience. And then we have a Fellows USA program where universities that are really looking to attract returned Peace Corps volunteers after their service are willing to pay returned volunteers to come on campus, and they offer very lucrative financial incentives, and that's the Fellows USA, and both of those programs are explained on our website.
So what happens to people after they get out of the Peace Corps?
They re-enter, they readjust. You know, I think a lot of people set off in different directions than they may have thought they were, you know, their trajectory was pointing them before they served as Peace Corps volunteers. A lot of people go into public service, a lot of people go into classrooms, you know, leading nonprofits, NGOs, a lot of people stay in the international arena. So they really go off in different directions. In Peace Corps, there's a real strong return Peace Corps volunteer network. A lot of return volunteer groups, one here in this area called CPACs. You know, there are a lot of different ways. The connections are strong, those bonds, even those of us who have never met, once we find out we're in the Peace Corps family, if you will, it's, it runs deep. And so there are a lot of ways to kind of keep that, keep those bonds. They help with, you know, certainly the career networking, educational benefits, as we mentioned. But one of the things I think the third goal of the Peace Corps, and this is something, again, that people think of the Peace Corps and going overseas and working in a different area, but really coming back home. And Kennedy said the logic of the Peace Corps is that we will bring it home. And to have 200,000 Americans who have served overseas and gone deep and learned languages and made friends and really become part of their communities, to have that experience and then to come back to the United States is so enriching, you know, wherever they land.
And we're going to take a short break. The Peace Corps, so enriching wherever they land, and that it has been that way for 50 years, and it is going stronger now than it has ever been. You may not have known, but we're very fortunate to be talking with Eileen Conoboy, who is the regional director of the office here of the Peace Corps in the Seattle area. The national director of the Peace Corps is being brought to us by the World Affairs Council, and Aaron Williams is coming here on November the 19th to speak. Strongly encourage you, if you're interested, to go to the World Affairs website. It's up on the screen, and you're going to learn an awful lot more about that particular event. And while you're at it, go ahead and send an email to richard.conlon@seattle.gov and say, keep scan, help scan retain its fair share of cable franchise fees.